August 7, 1942, Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. As the first light of dawn spread across the humid Pacific sky, the sound of landing craft engines echoed over the surf. 11,000 United States Marines surged onto the beaches, their boots sinking into the wet sand. Operation Watchtower had begun, their first major Allied offensive against the Empire of Japan. It was a moment that would forever shift the tide of the Pacific War. But amid the roar of naval bombardments, the clash of steel and the choking heat of the jungle, an unexpected weapon would emerge. It wasn't a gun or a tank or a piece of machinery. It was something far simpler, something woven into the very fabric of human speech, a weapon of sound, of language. In the tangled jungles of Guadalcanal, the enemy could be anywhere and anyone. Visibility dropped to just a few feet. In the dark, voices became the only means of recognition. But what if the voice calling from the shadows wasn't one of your own? What if the man who said, "Hold your fire, I'm an American," wasn't American at all? That question would haunt the Marines who stood guard at the edge of Henderson Field, the airstrip that soon became the beating heart of the campaign. Because at night, Japanese infiltrators crept silently through the jungle, their bayonets glinting in dim starlight, hoping to slip past American lines. They spoke English, sometimes perfectly. They wore captured Marine uniforms, and so the Americans needed a test, something foolproof, something no disguise could fake. It came from an unexpected place, the way a single letter was pronounced. Master Technical Sergeant James W. Hurlbut, a Marine combat correspondent who landed with the assault forces, later recalled the strange method in a 1943 interview. "We always had passwords that included the letter L," he said, "because L washed for the Japanese to pronounce. There's no L in the Japanese vocabulary." It was a simple observation, yet behind it lay a profound understanding of human speech and cognition. The Marines didn't need a linguistics degree to know it worked. They only needed to listen. By 4:00 p.m. on August 8th, the Marines had captured the nearly completed Japanese airfield. It was renamed Henderson Field in honor of Major Lofton R. Henderson, a Marine aviator killed at Midway. Within days, American aircraft began landing there, and the field became the key to the entire campaign. Whoever controlled it, controlled the skies and the fate of Guadalcanal. But with every passing night came the same threat. Japanese soldiers would attempt to infiltrate the perimeter, slipping through the jungle with silent discipline. And so every sentry guarding the airfield carried a password, only chosen specifically to catch the tongue of an enemy. To understand why it worked, we have to step inside the mechanics of language itself. In English, we have two distinct liquid sounds, the R and the L. They're easy for native speakers to tell apart, but in Japanese there's only one, a single sound that sits somewhere in between. Linguists describe it as a quick tap of the tongue, like a mix of R and L. To Japanese ears, both English sounds seem almost identical. And to Japanese mouths, reproducing them correctly, especially under stress, was nearly impossible. This wasn't about hearing or intelligence, it was about perception, the way the brain sorts sound. From childhood, we learn the categories of our native language. They become hardwired into our minds. By adulthood, even after years of study, it's almost impossible to unlearn them. So when a Marine challenged someone in the dark with a word filled with L's, the result spoke volumes. A native English speaker would say it naturally, but a Japanese infiltrator, no matter how fluent, might slip just enough for the century to know. There's one particular word that has become legendary in the Guadalcanal story: Lollapalooza. According to a wartime report by journalist Oliver Grahamling, Marines used it as a kind of shibboleth, a password. If the response came back as Rorapalooza, the sentry didn't wait to hear more, he fired. It's a striking image, a single syllable deciding life or death in the jungle. Whether Lapalooza was truly used that night remains uncertain. It appears in only one verified source, and no official Marine reports confirm it. But what is certain is that L-based passwords were real and effective. For the Marines, this wasn't just a linguistic curiosity. It was survival. Every night, enemy infiltrators crawled toward Henderson Field. Some carried grenades, some carried explosives, some simply came to die, killing as many Americans as possible. In that world of darkness and fear, pronunciation became a lifeline. Sometimes even perfect grammar could give the enemy away. One Marine recalled how a supposed American voice called out, "Hold your fire," "We're American Marines and wish to report our evening's activities." The sentry immediately shot because, as he said later, no real Marine would talk like that. The L test was just one of countless improvisations born out of necessity during the Pacific War. Buttitt's brilliance lay in how it exploited something no uniform or document could fake: the deep unconscious patterns of speech. In fact, the idea wasn't new. It had ancient roots. The word shibboleth itself comes from the Bible. In the Book of Judges, warriors used pronunciation to distinguish friend from foe. Those who mispronounced the word were executed on the spot, and the practice didn't end in the Pacific. During D-Day in 1944, Allied soldiers used a similar system. The challenge was flash, the response was thunder, the countersign welcome, each word chosen because German soldiers struggled with the and W sounds. Language again became a weapon. Back on Guadalcanal, the fighting raged for 6 long months, from the Battle of Tinarú in August, to Edson's Ridge in September, to the desperate stand at Henderson Field in October. Every engagement tested the resolve of the Marines. The jungle was a living nightmare of disease, exhaustion, and constant fear. Yet even amid that chaos, the Marines' simple linguistic trick helped protect their perimeter from silent, deadly intruders. Not all Japanese soldiers failed the test. Of course, some had studied English in universities or spent time abroad. For them, pronunciation wasn't a problem, and the system wasn't perfect. Noise, confusion, and accents sometimes made it unreliable, but it gave Marines a crucial edge in the deadly game of night warfare. By February 1943, the Japanese finally withdrew their remaining troops. The Americans had held Guadalcanal at enormous cost. Over 7,000 Americans were dead or wounded. The Japanese lost nearly 30,000. Yet the victory marked a turning point. From that moment on, Japan would fight a defensive war. After the war, linguists would study the same phenomena that those Marines had discovered by instinct. They found that adults rarely learn to distinguish foreign sounds perfectly, because our brains lock in the sound patterns of our first language during infancy. It's the same reason why foreign accents are so hard to lose. What the Marines had done without realizing it was apply one of the most profound truths of human cognition to warfare. Even today, the principle remains relevant. Modern militaries use voice analysis, dialect recognition, and stress-based vocal identification, all descendants of that simple Guadalcanal idea. And yet, beneath the science and strategy lies something deeply human. The L test reminds us that war wasn't just fought with weapons or machines, but with minds, with instincts, and sometimes with words. For the Marines of Guadalcanal, a single letter became a line between life and death, a test born out of desperation that turned into an ingenious solution, a story of how in the heart of the Pacific jungle, language itself became a weapon of war. Because in that place on those long dark nights, one wrong sound could be your last.